Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. They said the sword was born screaming. On a storm-torn night in the valley of Ise, when lightning split the mountains and the wind howled like a grieving mother, a blade maker named Muramasa hammered steel in rhythm with the storm. Each strike of his hammer echoed across the land. Each spark danced like a furious star. The air shook. The earth trembled. Some said he forged the blade with human blood. Others whispered he forged it with his own madness. But all stories agreed on this. The sword he created did not hunger for victory. It hungered for death. For decades, warriors who carried a Muramasa blade met violent ends. Some by enemies, others by their own trembling hands. The steel seemed to thirst. Once drawn, it refused to return to its scabbard without tasting blood. And eventually, the blade maker himself vanished, leaving behind only a legend wrapped in fear. That legend was more than enough to haunt the centuries. But Haru had never believed in curses. Not until the sword called his name. The whisper on the wind. Haru grew up in the mountain village of Sujitani, a place of cedar trees, cold river water, and silence thick as morning fog. His grandfather, old and stubborn as a winter pine, raised him with two rules: respect the kami, respect the blade. Haru obeyed the first. He tried to obey the second, but swords made his stomach twist. Even wooden practice bakken felt heavier in his hands than they should. Not because he was weak, he was stronger than most men his age, but because he feared the way a blade erased the boundary between life and death. Haru hated killing, but the world did not care what he hated. Bandits roamed the trade roads. Spirits prowled the forests. The border wars to the east grew bloodier each year. The daimyo needed more men. And Haru needed coin to care for his sick grandfather. So when he found work escorting travelers between villages, he accepted. He trained. Slowly, reluctantly, carefully. But he never carried a real sword. Until the night everything changed. It was late autumn when the merchant caravan he escorted stopped at an abandoned wayside shrine. The wind rattled the bamboo, dry leaves spiraled in tight circles, and the world smelled of cold earth and oncoming snow. The shrine had once been dedicated to an old mountain kami. Haru could tell from the faded rope of Shimenawa still hanging across the broken gate. But no offerings lay at the altar now. Only dust. He bowed anyway. As he rose, something pulled at the edge of his awareness. A faint whisper, like steel rubbed against silk. A voice. No, not a voice. A feeling. Come. The whisper came not from the shrine, not from the forest, but from beneath the earth itself. Haru's breath misted in the cold air. He followed the pull around the back of the shrine, where roots tangled like knotted bones. There, half buried in the soil and wrapped in decayed cloth, lay a long wooden chest, old, weathered, untouched for decades. Haru should have turned around. He should have left it in the dirt. But the whisper pulsed again. Draw me. His heartbeat stuttered. No, Haru muttered, stepping back. Whatever you are, stay silent. The whisper grew sharper, like a thread pulled tight. Draw me. I know you. You hear me. Haru's throat tightened. He dug the chest out of the soil with numb fingers. The wood crumbled easily. Inside, resting on old silk eaten by time, was a sword wrapped in dark red cloth. The moment his fingers brushed the cloth, a shock shot through his arm. The whisper bloomed behind his eyes. At last, Haru staggered back. No, no, I'm not your. His voice faltered. The sword thrummed beneath the cloth like a heartbeat. He pulled the wrappings away, and the world fell silent. The sword with sleeping eyes. The blade was beautiful, terrifyingly, impossibly beautiful. The metal shimmered with a faint ripple pattern, Hammond-shaped like rising flames. The hilt was wrapped in black ray skin, worn but strong. The guard was simple iron, engraved with 4 characters Haru recognized instantly. Tsunjung Muramasa. His breath caught. No, he whispered. Not you. The sword seemed to pulse. Yes. Haru's hand shook as he touched the hilt. A heartbeat. His heartbeat. And something else. A flood of memories. Memories that were not his. Slammed into him. Blood on snow. A warrior laughing as he cut down friend and foe alike. A child screaming. A river running red. A man holding this very sword while begging forgiveness from the sky. Haru ripped his hand away. The sword clattered onto the earth. He fell to his knees, gasping. What do you want from me? The wind stilled. The fox shrine creaked. The sword whispered, to be unmade, to die. Haru blinked. What? The whisper grew strained, almost desperate. I do not want to kill anymore. I cannot. Help me end this. Haru stared at the blade. A Muramasa sword, begging to die? That was impossible. But the sorrow in the whisper felt real. Ancient. Heavy. Haru wrapped the blade again, hands trembling. He did not know whether to fear it or pity it. But he knew one thing. He could not leave it behind. When the blade chose him, that night Haru did not sleep. He kept the sword wrapped tight beside him. But even through the layers of cloth, he felt its presence like a second heartbeat. Sometimes trembling, sometimes sighing, sometimes weeping. Near dawn, Haru heard his grandfather's voice in memory. A blade is a promise. Promise is a burden. Choose both wisely. Haru closed his eyes and whispered, I will not kill for you. I won't kill at all. The sword answered, soft as falling ash. Good. Neither will I. A cold certainty crawled through Haru's chest. What do you mean? The whisper deepened. There are others who seek me. Those who want my curse. Those who want my hunger. They are coming. Haru's pulse spiked. Coming? Why? Because I called you instead of them. Because I refused them. Because I chose you. Haru shook his head, standing. I'm not a warrior. I don't want a cursed sword. You are the only one who can silence me. The only one who can walk the path I cannot. What path? The wind snapped through the trees. The air darkened, and the sword whispered, the path to the forge where I was born, the place where the curse began, the place where I must break. Haru sucked in a breath. You want me to destroy you? Yes. Before the ones who hunger for me find you. Before they use me again. Before I become what I once was. A sudden shadow moved at the edge of the forest. Haru grabbed the blade, heart pounding. Who is hunting you? The whisper answered, not with fear, but with dread. The ones who worship death want me back. Haru's blood ran cold, and far beyond the trees, bells began to ring, the sound of hunters approaching. The bells grew louder, not temple bells, not warning bells. These rang with a jagged, uneven rhythm, as if struck by unsteady hands or hands too eager. Haru froze in the half-light of dawn, the wrapped Muramasa blade heavy in his grip. I thought you said no one knew where you were, he whispered. The sword answered, its voice faint and strained. I was hidden, but the moment you touched me, a thread awakened. Those who worship my hunger felt it. Haru's heartbeat quickened. Who are they? The whisper darkened. The Kurigane Shu, the Black Iron Sect, a cult born from blood spilled by my steel. Wind rustled the cedar branches overhead. The bells clanged again, closer now. Haru took a step back toward the abandoned shrine, his boots crunching in frosted grass. How many are coming? Silence. Then, too many for you to face. Haru grimaced. Then we're running. He slung the wrapped sword across his back and sprinted toward the forest path. Cold air stung his lungs as the bells broke into a fevered rhythm, echoing through the trees. The Black Iron Sect had found him, the sect that worshipped death. Haru kept low as he ran, weaving between cedar trunks. The path grew narrower, steeper, the roots twisting like serpents beneath his feet. Behind him, voices rose, deep, harsh, chanting in a language older than the villages. He couldn't understand the words, but he understood their tone. Praise, devotion, hunger. The sword vibrated against his back. They worship death. They worship what I once became. Haru gritted his teeth. You said you don't want to kill. So why follow you? Because they do not want me cured. They want the old Muramasa, the blade that never rested. Haru ducked behind a fallen log, chest heaving. Through the trees he saw them clearly now. Figures in black and rust-red robes, faces obscured by iron masks shaped like snarling oni. Each carried bells tied to their belts. Their leader, a tall figure with a three-pronged staff, raised his head. The iron mask he wore was darker than the others, carved into a permanent screaming grin. We feel the sword, he shouted, his voice echoing. The Muramasa calls to us. Spread out. The chosen bearer cannot hide. The others roared back. Chosen bearer? Haru pressed a hand over his face. You didn't choose me, he hissed at the sword. A faint sigh answered. I did. The flight through the ravine. Haru bolted again, taking the narrow path toward Kurodani Ravine. The forest thinned as the terrain dipped sharply, opening into a gorge where stone walls rose like jagged teeth. Below, the river churned violently, swollen with melted snow. Haru's foot slipped on the slick edge of the path. He caught himself on a broken branch, but the shout behind him made his blood freeze. There. He runs toward the ravine. Haru didn't look back. He sprinted along the cliff path, boots slipping on loose gravel. One misstep would send him crashing into the roaring water below. The sword vibrated urgently. Do not fall. I cannot protect you yet. What do you mean yet? Haru hissed. Before the blade could answer, an arrow sliced the air beside him, embedding into the cliff wall with a sharp crack. Haru flinched. The sect had archers. He ducked as a second arrow whistled past, grazing his sleeve. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. If he kept running straight, he'd be shot. Left, the sword whispered. Haru obeyed instinctively, veering around a crooked cedar that clung to the cliff face. The moment he passed it, a volley of arrows shattered against the trunk. They're really trying to kill me, Haru muttered. No, the sword corrected softly. They only want you dead if you refuse to wield me. Oh, wonderful, Haru snapped. Good to know I have options. A distant voice bellowed. Corner him at the ravine. If he falls, retrieve the blade from the river. Haru clenched his jaw. He had to hide. He had to think. He skidded down a sloped path leading deeper into the ravine. Rocks tumbled beneath his boots, clattering into the river. The roar of water grew louder, the air colder. The path ended abruptly at a narrow stone ledge overlooking the river. Below, white water surged violently. Above, the chants of the sect grew closer. Perfect, Haru whispered. Absolutely perfect. No path forward. No path back. Unless he looked at the river. You can't be serious, he whispered to the sword. The sword answered with cold, calm clarity. Jump. The leap of desperation. Haru swallowed hard. I'll die. You will not. Trust me. You're a cursed sword, and you are my chosen bearer. Haru shut his eyes. Arrows rained down from the cliff behind him. The sect members reached the edge of the ravine, chanting as their iron masks gleamed with frost. There, the leader roared. Do not let him escape. Haru breathed once, twice. Then he jumped. The world tilted, a rush of cold wind blasting his face. The river roared beneath him, a foaming maw waiting to swallow him whole. The sword whispered, hold tight. The water struck like a wall of stone. Haru's breath exploded from his lungs. He was dragged under, spun in violent circles, smashed against unseen rocks. Freezing water clawed at his chest. He fought upward, kicking desperately. His head broke the surface for a single choking breath. Then the current pulled him under again. Just as panic clawed into his throat, a surge of warmth spread from the sword. A faint, protective pulse enveloped him like a thin veil, slowing the water's grasp, not shielding him completely, but guiding him. The current shifted. Haru shot through a narrow channel beneath a fallen tree, then into a calmer pool where the river widened. He gasped, dragging himself toward the muddy shore. He collapsed on his hands and knees, coughing water from his lungs. The sword lay beside him, faintly humming. You lived, Haru groaned. Barely. Above the ravine, the sect's bells echoed. They'll find us, Haru whispered. They'll track us downstream. Not if we move first. Not if we reach the village of Tatsunoyura. Someone there can help you. Help me destroy you? No. Help you survive long enough to try. Haru wiped water from his eyes, shaking. Who? A pause. Then, one who was once my wielder. The path toward Tatsunoyura. Haru forced himself to stand, every muscle trembling. He slung the blade across his back once more and followed the riverbank through tangled undergrowth. Hours passed. No birds sang. The wind carried no scent. Only silence walked beside him. When Haru finally spoke, his voice was low. You said someone used you and lived? Yes. What happened to them? The whisper grew weighted. She broke free of my hunger, and she paid a price for it. Haru frowned. What price? The sword did not answer. Instead it whispered, we are close. The forest began to thin. Ahead, the path widened into a village road lined with stone lanterns. Bamboo clattered softly in the wind. Tatsunoyura. The village slept under gray twilight, its wooden houses leaning with age, its shrine gate covered in moss. But as Haru stepped forward, a warning struck through the sword's voice. Stop. Haru froze. At the shrine entrance stood a woman dressed in white and indigo robes, her long hair braided with silver thread. She held a wooden staff capped with parchment charms that fluttered like wings. Her eyes were calm, too calm, and they were looking directly at Haru, or rather, at the sword on his back. You, she said quietly, you brought that blade here. Haru swallowed hard. You know what it is? I do. She raised her staff. And I know why it must not be drawn. The sword's whisper trembled. Be careful. She is the one I spoke of. The one who survived me. Haru stared at the woman. You're the previous wielder? Her expression tightened. I was. She took a step forward, staff glowing faintly. And if you have any sense left, boy, you will hand me that cursed thing before it kills you. Haru tightened his grip on the wrappings. The sword pulsed sharply. Do not give me to her. The woman's eyes narrowed. You hear it, don't you? The whisper. Haru stiffened. Give it to me, she said, voice like steel. Or I will do what I should have done years ago. Wind howled suddenly. The bells rang again. Both Haru and the woman turned. The Black Iron sect had reached the village. And they were not alone. The forest pressed close around Haru and the wrapped sword as dawn struggled to break through the canopy. The winding mountain path was still kissed with frost, each blade of grass shining like a fragile shard of glass. Haru's breath came out in slow clouds, but his steps were quick, urgent, too urgent. He kept glancing over his shoulder. Every time the trees felt different, as if something followed just beyond sight. The sword whispered faintly from within its wrappings, tired, like a sleeper fighting to stay awake. Faster. Haru tried. His pack rattled. His knees ached. His ribs burned with each inhale. I'm going as fast as I can, he muttered under his breath. The sword pulsed softly. Not fast enough. They are close. A cold line ran down Haru's spine. Who are they? The sword didn't answer immediately. The silence felt heavier than sound. Then, those who worship the death I bring. Those who crave a clean, merciless world. The clan of the Crimson Edge. Haru felt his heart drop. I've heard stories, he whispered, but I thought they were just ghost tales told by drunk soldiers. They were real long before they were stories. A faint, bitter echo colored the sword's voice. And long before the stories, they were merely men. But hunger, true hunger, makes monsters of men. Haru swallowed. Something rustled in the trees behind them. He spun, hand hovering near the hilt, though he refused to draw the blade. Silence. No, not silence. Listening. The forest watched. The sword pulsed again, sharper this time. Keep moving. The forge lies beyond the valley. Before nightfall, if we are fortunate. Haru tightened his grip on the wrappings and forced his tired legs forward. Fortune was not something he trusted anymore. The old woman on the road. Hours later, when the sun struggled through a patch of haze, Haru finally saw someone ahead on the path. A hunched old woman, sitting on a fallen cedar trunk. She wore a patchwork kimono of faded indigo fabric, its threads fraying like cobwebs. A woven basket lay at her feet, filled with herbs tied in careful bundles. She looked fragile, harmless even. But the sword stirred immediately. Do not approach. Haru halted mid-step. Why? She's just an elder. The sword's whisper deepened. That is no elder. As Haru stared harder, something in the air around her began to feel wrong. Not dangerous, not violent, just wrong. As if she were wearing her body like a mask. The old woman's head lifted slowly. Her eyes met Haru's, and they gleamed, but not with human light. Traveler, she croaked, you seem weary. Rest here a moment. The forest can be cruel to the lonely. Haru forced a polite bow, hiding his trembling fingers. Thank you, honored grandmother, but I must continue. Her smile stretched too wide for her weathered face. Oh, no rest? Not even a sip of tea for a cold morning. She tilted her head. Not even for the boy carrying a sword that does not want to be carried? Haru froze. How do you, he began. But the old woman had already risen. Her bones cracked like breaking branches. Her shadow swelled. And her voice, not croaking anymore but smooth, rippling like silk drawn across steel, filled the path. Muramasa, show yourself. Haru stumbled back. The sword whispered sharply, run, now. But the old woman, no, the thing wearing her shape, moved faster than any elder should. She stepped in front of Haru in a single glide. He reached instinctively for the sword. Don't, the blade hissed. If you draw me, I will fight. And if I fight, I will kill. His hand hovered. The creature smiled again, too calm. You smell like mercy, she said softly, sniffing Haru. A strange scent for one who carries a blade of ruin. The air thickened. The forest seemed to bend away from her, as if rejecting her presence. You're not human, Haru whispered. Her lips twitched. Very good, boy. Maybe you deserve to keep your life. Then her face twisted, eyes burning like smoldering ash. But the sword, give it to me. Haru took a full step back. No. The creature's voice dropped to a growl. I was promised the blade. Promised the blood it will spill again. Promised your death, if you refused. Haru's throat tightened. Who promised you? She grinned. A man who calls himself your doom. Haru's pulse spiked. Someone was orchestrating this. Someone who knew where he was traveling. Someone who wanted the sword awakened. The creature exhaled sharply. Steam coiled from her lips. Very well, she hissed. If you will not give it willingly. She lunged. The refusal. Training taught Haru to dodge. Fear taught him to move faster. Instinct threw him sideways just in time. The creature's claws ripped into the cedar trunk behind him, slicing through wood as if it were paper. Haru scrambled back, boots sliding across damp leaves. She rounded on him, teeth sharpened to points. Stop running, boy. He didn't. He leapt over fallen branches, ducked under low limbs, weaving through the forest path. The creature pursued, her footsteps light, too light for someone her size. She moved between the trees like shadow, gliding more than running. Haru's breath came ragged. The sword urged him. Left. Now. He veered sharply. Just as the creature's strike carved a deep trench into the ground where he'd been. Fight me, she howled. I won't draw it. Haru screamed back. I won't. The forest trembled from her shriek. Branches shook violently. Snow fell from above like shards of white glass. She lunged again, faster than thought, and Haru tripped. He crashed to the earth, the sword case skidding from his grasp. The creature loomed above him, drool hissing where it hit the dirt. Finally, she reached for the wrapped blade. Haru lunged, grabbing the case just as she touched it. Black smoke burst from her fingertips. She shrieked and recoiled, clutching her hand as it withered in moments. Fingers rotting and curling like burnt roots. What did you? The sword whispered from the case. I refuse you. Only one may carry me. The creature's face contorted, fury boiling in her eyes. You think you can choose? You think you can deny me? Haru clutched the case to his chest and staggered back to his feet. I won't let you touch it. She lunged. He didn't dodge this time. He stood his ground. The creature's claws slashed toward him and stopped an inch from his throat. Her entire arm trembled, frozen in place. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You're protected, she whispered. The blade is shielding you. Haru didn't understand, but the sword did. You refused to draw me. Because of that, I refused to kill for you. And because you chose mercy when death was easier, I will not let death touch you. The creature hissed. Fear, not anger, finally entered her face. You are not like the others, she whispered to Haru. They feared the blade. You pity it. Haru swallowed. What are you? She backed away, trembling. A servant of the Crimson Edge. A hunter. A witch. But I am not suicidal. Her form began to warp, melting into smoke. Before vanishing fully, she hissed. They are coming for you, Haru of Sujitani. Warriors who worship the blade. Men who kill without hesitation. Those who believe Muramasa should drink again. Her eyes blazed red. They will not flee. She dissolved into shadow. The sword's pain. Silence swallowed the forest. Haru collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. He unwrapped the sword just enough to look at the blade. Thin cracks shimmered faintly along its surface. Hairline fractures glowing like old scars reopened. "Kyuso," Haru breathed. "You're breaking." The whisper came soft, trembling. "I am tired. Each rejection tears at what remains of me. Each wish to die hurts." Haru's throat tightened. "I don't want you to die," he whispered. The blade did not answer for a long time. Then, "I know." A pause. "And that is why you must be the one to end me." Haru closed the wrapping with gentle hands. "This curse began in fire," he said quietly. "So we end it in fire." The sword pulsed once. "At the forge. At the forge." Haru nodded. "Then we go to the forge." He stood, and the path ahead darkened, as distant bells rang again, closer than before. Hunters were coming, and they would not speak, bargain, or run. They would kill. The mountain path narrowed as Haru climbed, its stones slick with frost and silence. The air here was different, thinner, colder, humming with something he couldn't name. Even the sword wrapped tightly against his back felt heavier, its presence sinking deeper into his bones with each step. Ahead, the sun struggled through a wall of pale mist. Haru pushed forward, breath scraping in his throat, feeling the weight of exhaustion and urgency blur together into a single need. Get to the forge. Before the hunters do. Before the curse wakes again. The sword whispered faintly. "You are close. I remember this cold." Haru paused, steadying himself against a tree trunk. "You remember?" "Yes. Even if I wish I didn't." The whisper sounded tired, older than steel had any right to be. Haru kept climbing. Soon the path widened onto a ledge overlooking a valley of stone and dead trees. A jagged black structure rose from its center, a charred ruin shaped like a longhouse with collapsed walls. Broken beams jutted upward like ribs. "The forge," Haru breathed. The sword pulsed. "Muramasa's last one. The place where I was born. And where he died." A chill tore through Haru's chest. He took one step forward, then stopped. Smoke curled from the ground near the forge, thin, pale, wrong. The faint sound of metal scraping stone drifted through the air. The sword whispered sharply, "Someone is already there." Haru swallowed hard. "Who?" Before the blade answered, a figure stepped out of the ruin's shadow. It was not one of the Crimson Edge hunters he'd fought before. This one wore no mask. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his hair long and unbound, drifting around him like dark smoke. His kimono was torn at the edges, soaked with old stains Haru prayed were mud. In his hand he held a katana, not drawn, but ready, his gaze locked onto Haru. "So," the man said softly, "you're the one carrying the cursed child." The sword trembled against Haru's spine. "No, not him, not that one." The man smiled without warmth. "I've waited a long time for you." Haru's breath stuttered. "Who are you?" Someone who knows the blade better than you ever will, the man replied. Someone who should have been chosen. Haru's heart dropped. You're with the clan of the Crimson Edge. The man's smile widened. No, they worship the curse. I command it. He lifted his blade slightly, just enough to glint, ominous, restrained. My name is Shiro Kuranami. The sword hissed. Haru froze. You know him? He whispered. Too well. Shiro tilted his head. Tell me, boy, has the sword finally begged you to kill? Or do you still cling to the foolish idea that you can remain innocent? Haru stepped back instinctively. I won't kill anyone. Shiro laughed, low, cold, echoing off the stones. Then you already fail it. He pointed his katana toward the wrapped Muramasa. That blade exists to choose death, to grant it, to crave it. The sword tightened its whisper. Do not listen to him. Shiro took a step closer. The Muramasa blades were never cursed by madness. They were cursed by control. They were forged to cut truth from flesh, to sever lies, to destroy weakness wherever it hides. He locked eyes with Haru. You carrying it is an insult. Haru swallowed hard. I'm not here to use it. I'm here to destroy it. Shiro's expression sharpened with interest. Destroy it? He chuckled. You think the forge wants that? You think the fire that birthed the blade will kill its favorite child? The sword's whisper quivered. Haru, do not challenge him. Shiro lifted his blade. Draw it. Haru shook his head firmly. No. Draw it. Shiro roared, voice cracking the air like a whip. His presence surged forward, like a storm rolling off the mountain. Haru stumbled back. I won't. I told you. I won't draw it. Shiro's expression darkened. Then I'll carve off your hands and draw it for you. He lunged. The impact of Shiro's boots against the forge floor cracked the stone like thunder. Dust shot upward in a violent burst as he straightened, katana raised, face twisted with something far darker than rage. Something like heartbreak sharpened into madness. The faint white-gold flame around the Muramasa blade flickered, as if sensing the danger. Haru staggered back from the furnace, breath still ragged, eyes burning from the searing light. He shielded the blade with both arms outstretched, though he knew, truly knew, that he was no shield at all. Shiro's gaze locked on the glowing sword. You dare! He whispered, voice breaking like a bent reed. You dare burn her? Haru blinked through the heat. Her? He echoed. Shiro's eyes sharpened with wild devotion. Muramasa's final creation wasn't a weapon. She was his masterpiece, his daughter, his soul shaped into steel. And you! He leveled his katana, trembling with fury. You would melt her like scrap? The sword whispered weakly from the heart of the flame. Do not believe him. He twists truth into chains. But Shiro heard that whisper too. Haru saw his jaw clench, his eyes widen in near hunger. There. You hear it, don't you? Shiro barked. The blade speaks. It remembers. It lives. And you, some soft-handed coward from a dying village, dare think you deserve its voice. Haru swallowed. I don't deserve it. he said softly. But I was chosen to end it. Shiro's snarl cut through the heat. You were chosen because you are weak enough for it to manipulate. He surged forward, and the chamber erupted. The impossible strike. Shiro moved like a shadow that learned to cut. One moment he stood by the broken doorway. The next, he was a heartbeat away, katana slicing down toward Haru's head. Haru barely rolled aside. The blade bit into stone where he had stood, carving a deep, molten gash through the floor. Heat rippled outward from the strike. Not normal heat. Something infused. Something spiritual. Haru scrambled to his feet. You're not human, he panted, backing toward the furnace. Shiro didn't deny it. When you devote your life to a cursed blade, he said quietly, you begin to resemble the curse itself. He turned his hand. His skin shimmered like heated metal. The sword whispered, pained, urgent. He carries a shard of Muramasa's forge flame, stolen long ago, a sin that should have killed him. Haru's stomach twisted. That explained the unnatural power in Shiro's movements. His speed, his heat, his ferocity. Shiro raised his blade again. You will step aside, he commanded. I will pull her from the flame. Then I will finish what her creator could not. And what is that? Haru shouted. Shiro's smile chilled the air. Perfect the curse. He charged. The furnace awakens. Haru darted aside, but Shiro's blade still grazed his arm. A slash of flame rather than steel, burning cloth and skin with equal ease. Haru cried out, stumbling. Shiro pressed forward mercilessly. There is no path, he hissed, where you leave this place alive. The sword whispered through the flame, voice cracking. Do not draw me. If you draw me now, I will kill him. Haru clutched the weaving cloth around the furnace's rim. I won't draw you. Shiro's laugh echoed harshly. That's the difference between us, boy. He twirled his katana once, beautiful, terrifying. You cling to conviction even when it kills you. Haru winced, clutching his burned arm. Shiro lunged, but the forge reacted first. The bloodless flame roared, flaring outward. A wave of white heat blasted across the chamber. Shiro staggered back, snarling. She rejects me? Even now? The sword whispered. The flame knows your sin, Shiro Kuranami. It knows what you stole, and what you killed to keep it. Shiro froze. Haru saw something flicker across his expression. Not rage, but guilt. What did you kill? Haru asked. Shiro's eyes lowered, then hardened into blades. Muramasa, he said softly. I killed the man who forged the child you seek to destroy. Haru's breath shattered. The sword screamed. Liar. But Shiro cut across the whisper. He begged for death. His voice trembled with twisted pride. He wanted release from the madness. He asked me to use his own blade against him. No. The whisper cracked like thunder. He murdered his master. He murdered my father. Shiro's expression twisted. He was sick. He was broken. He forged a monster. He pointed at the burning blade. And then he left me to perfect it. Haru shook his head, horrified. You killed him for power. Shiro's smile returned, cold and hollow. There is no other reason to kill. The sword's breaking point. The flame brightened. White leaking into gold. Gold into blue. Blue into something Haru didn't have a name for. The sword's whisper thinned. Haru cannot hold on much longer. Shiro noticed. His eyes sharpened. Yes, yes. Burn away. Let me watch the weakness melt. He rushed forward again. Haru stepped between him and the furnace. No more, he said quietly. Shiro raised his blade. You can't stop me. I don't need to stop you, Haru whispered. I just need to keep walking. He sidestepped again and again, moving toward the far wall. Away from the furnace. Shiro snarled. Coward! The sword whispered faintly. Yes, let him away. Just a little longer. But Shiro caught the plan. You're buying time. Haru didn't respond. He didn't need to. Shiro lunged forward, blade blazing with heat stolen from the forbidden flame. This ends now. The fall into fire. Shiro swung with full force. Haru dodged, but too slowly. The blade slammed into the stone floor, sending a burst of molten rock upward. Haru threw his arms over his face. Shiro kicked him backward. Haru hit the ground hard, sliding across the stones until his back slammed into the furnace itself. The heat seared his clothes. He cried out. Shiro approached slowly, blade dripping with white-hot light. This blade deserves a blood ritual, he said calmly. Not purity, not forgiveness, not death. He raised his katana. I will end your weakness. The sword screamed. Haru. Shiro brought the blade down, and the forge exploded. The fire chooses a side. A column of white fire burst from the furnace. Shiro was thrown backward, striking the far wall with bone-breaking force. Haru shielded his face as shards of light tore through the room like a storm. The flame roared, but it was not destroying the sword. It was changing it, purifying it. Shiro staggered to his feet, coughing blood. No, 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 and no. He dragged himself forward, screaming. It chose you. It chose you. The flame flickered outward, forming a circle around Haru and the burning blade. A barrier, a sanctuary. Shiro slammed against it, fist cracking bone. Let me in. He struck again. You do not deserve the voice of that sword. Again. You are nothing. Again. Nothing. His final strike was weak, desperate. He fell to his knees, panting violently, forehead pressed to the shimmering barrier. Why? He whispered, voice breaking like a dying ember. Why won't she choose me? The barrier pulsed with soft heat. Because, the sword whispered, barely audible. You chose death. Haru chose life. Shiro stared up, eyes hollow. She never even spoke to me. Haru's throat tightened. I'm sorry, he whispered. Shiro looked at him with something like disbelief. You pity me? Haru nodded. Shiro laughed once, broken, bitter, and collapsed. The flame's final breath. The white fire softened. The roar dimmed. The furnace light shrank, pulling into the blade like breath returning to a resting body. Haru stepped forward, trembling. Sword? He whispered. A faint pulse. Haru. He lifted the transformed blade from the forge. Its surface was no longer cursed steel, but pale metal laced with shimmering white lines, like cracks filled with moonlight. Are you alive? Haru asked. Yes, but not for long. Haru felt his heart crack open. No, no, don't say that. The whisper soothed him. You freed me. You carried me without drawing me. You gave me a path beyond blood. The blade glowed once more. One final time. Take me to the mountain's peak. Haru held the sword gently. Why? To scatter me into the wind, so I may never kill again. Haru swallowed hard and nodded. The mountain air grew thinner as Haru climbed, carrying the transformed Muramasa gently in both hands. The blade no longer radiated hunger, no longer throbbed with the pulse of a trapped spirit, felt lighter and quieter, as if silence had finally returned to a place that had forgotten what silence meant. Only faint lines of white light still glowed along its surface, like moonlit veins, slowly fading with every step Haru took toward the peak. The sword whispered softly, "Higher, Haru." He nodded, breath smoky from the cold. The world around him grew harsher as he ascended. Snow clung to his hair and eyelashes. Wind pressed against his back like an impatient guide. The path narrowed to a ledge carved into ancient stone, as if carved by the footsteps of 1,000 forgotten warriors who once sought the same summit. But Haru was not a warrior. He had never been one. And the sword in his hands, this blade forged from suffering, obsession, and unrelenting death, had chosen not a killer but someone who refused to kill. That was why Haru had been chosen, not for strength, not for skill, but for restraint. Near the peak the sky opened vast, pale, endless. Clouds drifted below the mountaintop, floating like rivers made of light. The summit rose above them like a solitary island. Haru stepped onto it. Snow cracked beneath his boots. Wind curled around him like smoke around a candle. The sword whispered, "Here, this is enough." Haru swallowed. "Will it hurt?" he asked quietly. "No." A pause. "Not in the way you fear." He exhaled shakily. "What do I do?" "Hold me toward the wind." Haru lifted the sword, its pale metal catching the faint glow of the rising sun. The light shimmered along the blade's new lines, like memories turning transparent. The sword whispered again, softer now, like a voice losing its breath. "Haru?" "Yes." "Do you remember the first thing I ever said to you?" Haru nodded. "You asked to die." "Yes." "And now?" "Now I ask to rest." Haru closed his eyes. Wind roared softly over the mountaintop. He took a slow breath. "All right," he whispered. "I'll set you free." He raised the blade higher. The white lines along the steel brightened. The sword's voice thinned, slipping like sand through fingers. "Thank you for carrying me without letting me kill, for listening, for refusing to fear me, for refusing to use me." Haru's hand trembled. "You were never a monster," he whispered. "You taught me that." Light flared along the blade, and the metal cracked. A thin, luminous fracture spread from the tip to the guard, delicate as a spider's thread. The sword shuddered in his grip, but not in pain. In release, Haru held it firmly. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here." The blade pulsed once more. Haru, "Yes." A faint sigh of light. "Walk on." Then, the sword shattered. Not violently, not with the shriek of breaking steel, but with a whisper, like snow falling from a branch. Fragments of pale metal scattered upward, lifted not by force but by the wind itself. Each shard glowed with soft light, drifting into the sky like 1,000 tiny lanterns. Haru watched them rise, eyes stinging. The pieces floated into the open air, dissolving into white dust, then into nothing at all. No blade, no curse, no whisper, only quiet, only peace. Haru lowered his hands slowly, fingers tingling from the warmth that lingered where the sword had once been. Wind brushed his cheek, gentle as a farewell touch. The snow around him glowed for a moment, illuminated by the remnants of the blade's passing. Then the light faded, leaving only the normal morning sky. Haru stood alone on the mountaintop, breath trembling, heart aching in a way he could not name. But it was not grief, not loss, something gentler, something like gratitude. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you for letting me walk with you." The descent. Haru began making his way down the mountain after a long moment of stillness. His legs trembled with exhaustion, but his steps felt lighter, unburdened in a way he didn't recognize. The wind no longer pushed him, it guided him. Snow softened under his boots as he descended toward the lower paths. And as he moved, he saw the forest stretching far below him, alive, bright, no longer shadowed by the hunger of a cursed blade. At the edge of the misty timberline, he paused. Someone was waiting there. Shiro. He sat slumped against a tree, face pale, breathing shallow. His katana lay broken beside him. The once furious heat that radiated from him had cooled to nothing. But he wasn't dead. Not yet. Haru approached with quiet steps. Shiro lifted his head, eyes dim but still sharp. "Did you destroy it?" he rasped. Haru nodded slowly. Shiro closed his eyes, expression twisting into something Haru had never expected to see on the man's face. Relief. "Then I failed," Shiro whispered. Haru crouched beside him. "No," he said softly. "You're free too." Shiro let out a hollow laugh. "Free? I don't even know what that means anymore." Haru reached forward, and after a moment's hesitation, placed 2 fingers gently on Shiro's wrist, where a faint heat still pulsed. "You can learn," Haru said, "if you want." Shiro stared at him, stunned. "You offer mercy even now?" "It's all I have to offer." Shiro looked away, eyes wet, jaw trembling. After a long silence, he whispered, "What was it like when it died?" Haru turned his gaze toward the mist-covered sky. "It wasn't death," he said quietly. "It was rest." Shiro's breath caught, and for the first time he nodded without anger. "Rest," he repeated. Haru stood. "Come," he said gently. "There's a village down the mountain. You can heal there. Shiro looked at him for a long moment. Then, he nodded. Haru helped him to his feet. The path home. They walked slowly through the morning light, the forest stretching peacefully around them. Birds began to sing in the branches above, soft, cautious notes returning to a world that had forgotten how quiet could feel. Shiro leaned on him for balance. "Do you think," Shiro murmured, "that Muramasa would forgive me?" Haru paused, then shook his head gently. "No blade can tell us that." Shiro flinched, but Haru continued, "But forgiveness doesn't start with the dead." Shiro looked at him sharply. "It starts with the living," Haru said. They resumed walking. The sun broke over the treetops. Warmth spread across the forest, and Haru felt, for the first time in months, that he could breathe fully and without pain. He touched the empty wrapping tied to his belt, once home to a cursed blade, now only cloth. It fluttered in the wind like a prayer flag, and Haru whispered into the morning air, "Rest well." Epilogue: The wind that carries names. That night, as Haru slept in a quiet-in room near the village, the wind outside stirred. Snow drifted across the window, and for a brief moment, a faint shimmer of white light danced across the glass, like falling dust. A whisper, too soft for waking ears, brushed the room. "Haru, thank you." The light faded, the wind calmed, and the blade that once carried death finally learned how to sleep. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.